Well, here we are in the beginning of the year, the end of the first month, and a lot of us got new toys, gadgets, gifts for Christmas. And sometimes we need to learn how to use those when we get new things. We have to read the instructions, learn, figure it out. Maybe it's a new phone, maybe it's a new piece of technology, or maybe it's a new tool or a piece of kitchen equipment or something. I recently got a mandolin slicer, whatever it's called, and looks simple, looks lovely. All those lovely little different ways you can chop and dice and slice vegetables. Well, it wasn't easy and it wasn't simple, and it was quite a project to clean up. Yeah. So here I have this great time saving tool, but I need to learn how to use it. How to use it. Doesn't do me any good sitting in the box under my counter now, does it? And the same can be said about where we are in our series this month, The Principles of Life. We've been studying the first 4 pre chapters of the science of mind. And my message today is the art of mindful creation. So this month we have already learned that God is both love and law. We learned how this universal intelligence works, and we learned what it does. You feel smarter? You're way smarter. I know you are. This week, we're going to learn how to use it and what's our role in this equation of creation. We'll discover how to consciously work with this loving, lawful presence to research our goal of designing and living a life of joy and harmony and purpose. Because that's what we're doing this year. We're designing or learning how to design our lives and no longer live by default. This final pre chapter of the science of mind, how to use it, is probably the most practical and useful of the whole. I don't know if I'll say the whole book, but those first four chapters for sure. And that's really what we want to know. What's in it for me? What's in it for me? Why should I study this stuff? How can I apply it? Ernest Holmes is the author of The Science of Mind. And the very first sentence of this chapter, he says, one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. And folks, this is where most of us get tangled up in our underwear about this teaching. Get it all up here and don't get it down here. We don't get it down here. We get hyper focused on how to do it, what to say, what are the words, what's the treatment, what's the steps, what's the process. We get all of that going up here and we forget it's a teaching of being. It's a teaching of creating this, not creating, of understanding our relationship with God, with the divine presence. The stage is already set for us. The stage, all we have to do is take conscious action in us. Anybody ever experienced information overload lately? I have. I do. And I think there's a lot of it in the world today. We are so accessible and there's so much that everybody wants to share with us. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I have. It may be in the reports and the data that we receive in our business. Maybe you receive information from your financial planners and stock accountants or whatever, your portfolio. Maybe it's insurance agents and all of that plethora of paperwork they love to send you in 19 languages. Or maybe it's just social media or the news media. You know, there's 7 billion stations out there now that broadcast news on a regular basis, vying for our attention. Even this lovely book, The Science of Mind, that's 600 pages of information. That's a lot. It's 600 pages of information. And if you study it over time, you might have realized that Ernest Holmes repeated himself just a bit in The Science of Mind frequently. But I think I don't know. I didn't meet the man, but I think he realized how complex and how simple this teaching really is. And so he wanted to repeat it in many different ways so that more people could understand it. I think that's why he did that. You know, when you're having a conversation with someone and you don't think they get you, or you don't think they're listening, and you just feel compelled to keep repeating yourself over and over until they finally go, I got it. I think that's what he was doing. So these first four pre-chapters are designed as the foundation for the next 24. It's basically, if you go through these four and you understand what I'm talking about here, you'll understand pretty much what's in the next 24 chapters. You'll get it. But you need these first four as the foundation to understand. So, what we're going to discover today is, how does it work for me? What can I do? How do I apply these principles in my life to make it better? I'm going to give you the nugget of the day right here, early on, right now. The main idea to remember about how to use this is that we must use it consciously. We must use it consciously. Every person on the planet alive today who's ever lived, who will ever live, uses the science of mind. Did you know that? Every person does. Because it's based on the laws of the universe and the way life works. Now, does everybody understand that? Use it consciously? I think if we turn on some of those news stations and social media, we'll see that no, they don't. Because not everyone uses it consciously. I don't use it consciously all the time. Am I alone in that? You know, sometimes we're on autopilot. Does it mean that we're special because we do understand? Yes and no. Yes, because we're here doing something about it, because we are all on this planet blessed beings. We're all spiritual beings. But no, not really, because the law treats everybody exactly the same anyway. So, from that standpoint, nobody's special under the law. It's what we do with it ourselves, the individualization that we are and make of it. The science of mind is a study of the law of cause and effect. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. If you want to take that 600 pages and say, what, give me, 2 words, law of 3 words, law of cause and effect. Some teachers teach it as karma. And there are a lot of people that believe in karma, and karma is more about past lives and bringing that baggage forward into the next life until we heal it. In the science of mind, we are more isolated on this lifetime, and the subjective or subconscious beliefs that we have that we are dragging through life with us until we heal them. That's the basic difference. It's also very much what Jesus said to his followers when he said, "It is done as you believe." So the same teaching in all three of those ideas, cause and effect, karma, and it's done as you believe, in three different faith traditions. Now, it is done as you believe reminds me of Major Anthony Nelson and his genie. You remember the TV show I Dream of Jeannie? Well, Jeannie was about a 3,000-year-old genie, right? That hadn't been out of her bottle for a while. And so she didn't always understand what Anthony with Tony was talking about when he would say something. But as a genie, she had to say, yes, as you wish. And she blinked it into being. Now, I loved this show growing up as a kid. I guess I know why now, because I enjoy the law. I sometimes think of the universal law like that. We think we know what we want. We may eloquently speak our words, our affirmations, but then we don't experience what we think we were thinking. This is usually because our subconscious is sending a different message. Maybe our desire is wrapped in our belief in limitation. Wanting comes from a belief in lack, a belief that we're unworthy, a belief that is buried deep in our subconscious, while desire and acceptance come from knowing we are abundant, worthy, and divine beings. If we think about our subconscious, well, let's think about where we are right now. Sitting right here, right now, everybody has their phone. If we log onto our little phone and we go to, well, I don't know which kinds of phones you have. This is an iPhone. If I go to settings and I go to Wi-Fi, it's got SCSL Wi-Fi. It's broadcasting right now to all of us equally, to our phones, right? It's all through, it's broadcasting. All we have to do is log in. That's what's happening with our subconscious. Whatever's buried in our subconscious is constantly broadcasting out to the universe, to law. Law is receiving that. Now, we may be over here saying abundance, happy relationship, happy health, whatever we're saying, we're affirming that. But if our subconscious is broadcasting this opposite of that, that's what's constantly being received by the law with a little mix up of what this is, so we don't get what we think we're thinking. Make sense? So that's how it works. That's why it's important for us to begin to allow that subconscious belief to come into the light to be healed, the light of awareness to be healed. So how do we heal a belief in unworthiness? Many of us have that at some level, at some degree. There's some sense of unworthiness. We have to do the work to heal or transform the cause of it. If you believe you're unworthy, you've been told a lie. You've been told a lie. If you deal with feelings of unworthiness, someone somewhere in your life told you a lie about who you are. They told you you're not good enough to succeed, to play that sport. You're not smart enough to go to college. You're not talented enough to be in the band. You're not good enough to get the job. It's not as important to know exactly what it is. We don't have to dredge all that stuff up, but we do have to know that it's untrue and accept you're a blessing from God. Do you know how special you really are? I mean, if you think each one of us started with two cells coming together in an explosion of light that began to multiply until we became these little human beings, the odds of those two particular cells that had that particular chromosome, DNA, and all the other stuff in it that made you the individual that you are. Do you know how special you are? How unique you are? Don't let anybody ever say you're not. It's not true. You are whole, perfect, and complete in this expression, just the way you are. Look at that old story, recognize it for what it is, not true, and begin the process of transforming it. Until we heal that old story, till we heal those subconscious beliefs that are broadcasting the wrong information, we're going to continue to experience the effects of that belief. This is true of any lie that we've ever been told. We continue to, as long as we believe it, we'll continue to experience the effects of it. Using the science of mind principles consciously means that we are aware of our thoughts. Becoming aware of our conscious thoughts is relatively easy once we begin to focus on them. Becoming aware of the conscious thoughts, we begin to notice what we're thinking about, where our mind wanders to when we're daydreaming, what thoughts invade our meditation time. We begin to pay attention and notice what those are and have a better understanding of what's happening within us, of who we are, of what's going on in this mind of ours. Paying attention to what we're thinking is the first step to expanding our conscious awareness. The deeper work, however, the fun stuff, right? The deeper work, that's to become aware of this subjective or subconscious thoughts and begin to change those. Now, whenever I notice something is out of sorts in my life, I first have all the normal stuff. I resist, I react, I have fear, I have anger, frustration, whatever, the emotional storm. And once the storm is over, then it's, hey, what called this in? Why is this here? What is its purpose? Am I a match to this? Is it here for a healing purpose? Where am I at? Has this happened in my life before? Is this familiar energy that I'm dealing with? What was my role in this event? These deeper questions begin to open us up to more awareness of who we are, that we may begin to scratch the surface of that subconscious, to understand some of those dynamic relationships that we have that have happened to us, that we continue to broadcast out into the world to call forward experiences with other energy sources like that. A fantastic way that we can begin to mine this information is through journaling. Because when we ask a question, our mind wants an answer, right? You notice that your mind wants an answer. So when we sit down with a journal and pen or pencil and we start asking these deeper questions and we allow whatever to start coming up in the brain to start working, the mind to start working, the subconscious begins to be revealed. And we begin to see those words flow onto the paper. And so now we've got something we can work with. We've got some ahas. We've got some realizations. We've got some more questions usually. Ooh, could that be? Could that be? And only when we bring them into a light can we begin to heal them. It usually takes time for this work. It's unfortunately or fortunately not usually one and done. It may take many of similar events to deactivate these deeper beliefs. I think of it like going around a pointed mountain. I found a great picture of a pointed mountain, but I did not find one that had the road that I wanted. So Joe drew a better road. Thanks, Joe. Joe fixed my road. You knew what I was talking about. Most of us begin our study in spirituality down there at the base. It's wider, it's a long way around that base. This is where we begin our studies. And we probably first encountered some of our big life issues there and probably did some deeper work at that point of healing some of the big boulders, so to speak, in our lives. And as you see, as we start to go up, that road gets a little shorter because the mountain's getting smaller, right? And so we're going a little faster around the mountain at that point. We're developing tools as we go that help us in transformation. And we're experiencing different life events that we get these healing opportunities on as we go around. But then all of a sudden, that thing we thought we healed on the bottom, that big giant boulder, shows up again. What? I already did that work. I got to do it again. What happened? Doesn't this stuff work? Doesn't this stuff work? Well, the important thing is to keep moving, right? What do they say? If you're going through hell, don't stop moving, just keep going, or something like that, that song. But keep going. Don't get stuck on it. Recognize the energy. This time when it shows up, let's say you've got a relationship with a parent. that was dramatic or traumatic growing up, and you did some healing work at the base level, and then you come back around and it shows up again. Well, it's not going to show up as your father this time. Maybe it's going to show up as your spouse. Maybe it's going to show up as your boss, coworker, a friend. It's not the person typically that's going to show up. It's the energy. It's the energetic dynamic of that relationship that shows up again, that we get to heal again. That is our work. But we've developed all these new tools as we've gone up the mountain, tools of transformation that help us to recognize it and to work through it a little more quickly. Excuse me. When we heal the energy between us and that person in the history, whatever it is, it's that energetic piece of it that we've got to heal, and the drama or the trauma of the past. Living our lives consciously requires a willingness to become more aware of our life, our surroundings, our emotions. It requires us to be present to all of that stuff that's going on. It requires us to no longer accept default thinking and that's just the way life is attitudes. It requires us to become an active participant and a co-creator of our lives. That's how we transform. Through the principles taught here in the Science of Mind, we can learn to live in alignment with both love and law, remembering those are the same thing, right? Our teaching symbol suggests three, but it's one. It's one thing expressing as love and law. Until we choose a path to greater awareness, we'll continue to run the default programming, the stuff that we've accepted over time. And, if we look at our lives and we're not happy with them, that's so that we can step back. I've ever heard that mystical saying, the truth that sets us free is that we can choose our life experience through the power of our minds. Isn't that wonderful? Teachers have taught these universal truths since the beginning of time. But until we realize we are active participants in the creative process, we'll continue to live by default. As I said, the system is set, the rules are clear, and all we need to do is play the game of life, become conscious of what we're doing. I was playing golf recently. How many golfers do we have? A few? Half. I was playing golf recently and got up to hit a tee shot and swung and got back in the cart. And one of my friends said, "You really wanted that, didn't you?" I'd flubbed the shot horribly. And yeah, I really wanted it. I wanted a long drive on that hole, really, really, really bad. My golfers know what I'm talking about. And so I completely overswung and hit a really, really bad shot. I let my ego get in the way of a clearer mind and take over and just totally ignore everything I knew to do and just hit the ball, right? And that's the worst thing you can do. So, cause and effect at its best. But the same is true in the law of life. Sometimes we try too hard. We make it more difficult than it needs to be. We don't need to force outcomes. And that's what I was trying to do with that golf ball. I was trying to force that outcome and it didn't work. We need to simply align our thinking, feelings, and actions with truth and let life respond to us. When we live in alignment, it's a response mechanism. It's responding now, But because we're sending broadcast signals that don't match the conscious signals and things get a little wonky, but if we can just live in alignment and let it respond to us, life will flow. So let's look at how we can use this in our lives this week. Your first assignment is to notice your thoughts. Notice your thoughts. If it's challenging, sit quietly and watch the chatter that starts to happen. Just observe it. See what's going on. What's the topic? What are we talking about today? What are the words? Who's talking? Can you stop the talking? Can you change the subject? If you practice this every morning, you will begin to notice your thoughts at other times throughout the day. You're building a habit of noticing and becoming aware of the conversation in your mind. Your second assignment then is to notice the pattern. After you do this for a bit, you'll begin to notice you've got a pattern of your thinking. Are you in the future? Are you in the past? Are your thoughts creative? Are they destructive? Are they complimentary? Are they judgmental? Do you complain? Or is your chatter in your head all about complaining? If you notice negative thought patterns, you can begin to shift them and change the conversation by just saying strongly, that's not true. That's not true. And then stating what is true over and over and over. If you notice more affirmative thought patterns, focus on consciously expanding those and directing them towards more good for you and for humanity. We have that ability. The purpose of noticing our thoughts and patterns is to become more aware of what we think so that we are more present to this co-creation that we are doing in the world. This will lead us to be more aware of our feelings as well as we notice when that little negative emotional storm comes up that I talked about earlier with the fear and all of that stuff. We'll notice that. And this is the deeper work of transforming our lives. We must first know ourselves. So this exercise will help us to begin to design our lives because we're aware of what we're thinking and we can consciously change it. And then we become the law of our own lives. So it is. I'm not going to do Q&A tonight today because I want you to come tomorrow for a big Q&A when we are going to discuss all 4 lessons this month. And, you're going to discuss them really. I'm just going to facilitate. I'll come with some questions, but I really want us to have a lovely open dialogue about the teaching, if it works, if it doesn't, why it does, why it doesn't. Got all the way through this morning. All right. So let's pray. How about that? As we go within, we recognize that there is one power, one presence, one life. That power, that presence, that love is God. It is spirit. It is source. It is the infinite. It is that which is the foundation and from which all comes. All is created. And it creates of itself because it loves so much that it just simply expresses itself in that creation. And so I know that I am a creation manifestation of it, a miraculous one in a million. And as I know that for myself, I know that for each one of us, that we are whole, perfect, and complete in this manifestation. We are one in the one. We are perfectly imperfect in our beingness. And we are united in this one mind, this one life, this one love. And so I speak my word for and about each of us, knowing that as we have gone through this teaching this month, this basic ideas of the science of mind, that we have been changed and transformed, Our consciousness has expanded. As we now begin the study this year and the creation of our life by design, no longer accepting default law of averages, that's just the way it is. We are co-creators with the power and the presence of the universe, that which creates worlds, we're in partnership with. And we speak our word, we affirm our truth, we accept our good. Releasing anything we've been told to the contrary, knowing that that is just an untruth, knowing it's a fairy tale, it's not the truth of who we are. We accept our divinity in this moment. And I know for anyone that has anything on their heart today, as they lift it into this prayer, that we hold them in the consciousness of our love, of divine right action and order, perfect unfoldment, clarity, abundance, joy, healing, health. And I bless Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living, knowing that it is a divine idea in the mind of God, and that we are a beacon in the world to all who seek a closer relationship with the divine, a deeper understanding of who they are and how to transform their lives. It is with a grateful heart filled with joy and thanksgiving that I release this into the action and activity of law, knowing that it is done. And we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is.